The first child vanished on a Sunday. That detail mattered more than anyone wanted to admit. Sunday mornings are supposed to be predictable. Clean shoes, ironed shirts, parents counting heads before communion. At St. Anselm's Church, the bells rang at exactly 9 a.m. The priest lifted his hands at 9:17, and by 10:02 the children were released to the courtyard where parents waited with phones and folded arms. Except that morning, one child never came out. Her name was Lydia Moore, 8 years old. Pink hair beads. Last seen walking toward the side corridor that led to the washrooms and the clergy offices. A corridor no child had any reason to use during service. By the time I arrived, the church still smelled like incense and panic. The kind of panic people try to pray away. Parents said the same thing over and over. She was right behind me. She was sitting right there. I only looked away for a moment. Moments are generous liars. I walked the building the way I always do. Slowly. Not like a believer. Like a problem. Churches are excellent at hiding things. Thick walls. Old renovations. Rooms added without blueprints. Locks that no one remembers installing. The side corridor was narrow and dim. No windows. No cameras. The kind of design that belonged to another century, when privacy mattered more than safety. The washroom door was unlocked. Dry sink. No disturbance. No sign of a struggle. But children don't disappear quietly. I checked the floor. Polished stone, recently cleaned. Too recently. Someone had scrubbed it hard, right down to the grout lines. That told me two things. Someone noticed something. And someone wanted it gone. The priest, Father Marcus Hale, stood near the altar speaking softly to Lydia's mother. He had the right face for grief. Gentle eyes. A voice trained to calm storms. He had been at St. Anselm's for 12 years. Baptized half the congregation. Buried the other half. No criminal record. No complaints. No whispers. Those are the ones you watch closely. He told me he hadn't seen Lydia after the sermon. Said children wandered all the time. Said the church had many exits. Said faith meant trust. I didn't argue. I never do in the beginning. We canvassed the grounds. The courtyard. The small garden behind the chapel. The locked storage shed that hadn't been opened in years. Nothing. Then, 2 weeks later, another child vanished. This time it was a boy. Thomas Reed. 7. Last seen during Wednesday catechism class. His teacher stepped out to take a call. When she came back, his chair was empty. His workbook still open. Pencil rolling on the floor like it had been nudged. Different day. Same building. That's when the church stopped being sacred and started being a crime scene. Forensics came in quiet. No flashing lights. No uniforms. Just gloves and evidence bags moving through stained glass shadows. We swabbed door handles. Benches. Light switches. Every surface a child could touch. In the side corridor, under a loose baseboard, we found fibers. Blue polyester. Cheap. Not from church clothing. Under a cabinet in the clergy office, there were faint scratch marks. Fresh. Someone had dragged something heavy across the floor and tried to hide the damage with polish. The polish didn't reach the corners. In the storage room behind the vestry, we detected traces of industrial cleaner strong enough to destroy DNA. Except it didn't destroy all of it. On the underside of a table, protected from the chemicals, there was skin. 2 profiles. Neither belonged to a priest. We requested the church's maintenance records. Found renovations that weren't reported to the city. A false wall added behind the old confessionals. A crawl space that didn't exist on any map. When we opened it, the air inside was stale. Trapped. Like it had been holding secrets longer than any of us had been alive. Inside were children's shoes. 1 pink bead. 1 broken pencil. And a small wooden door. Scuffed at the bottom, with scratches on the inside. Someone had been locked in there. The congregation gathered outside as the news spread. Prayers turned to whispers. Whispers turned to accusations. People looked at each other like strangers. Father Marcus stood at the edge of the crowd, hands folded, watching the church being taken apart piece by piece. When I asked him about the renovations, he said they were for storage. When I asked why no permits existed, he said the building was old. When I asked him why industrial cleaner was used in a sacred space meant for prayer, his hands shook for the first time. That's when I noticed something else. On his sleeve, barely visible, was a blue polyester fiber. The same kind we found under the baseboard. Faith can forgive many things. Evidence does not. By the end of the day, we had enough to bring him in for questioning. As he walked past me, he leaned close and whispered, "You won't understand this place unless you believe." I watched the doors of St. Anselm's close behind him, and I knew belief was about to collide with proof. Interrogation rooms strip people down better than confessionals ever could. Father Marcus sat across from me with his collar still on. I noticed that right away. Most people shed symbols when they're scared. He clung to his hands folded, back straight, like posture alone could protect him. I didn't start with questions. I started with silence. Silence makes honest people uncomfortable. Liars fill it. He spoke first. Said the church had always protected children. Said evil comes from outside, not within. Said people were angry because they needed someone to blame. I slid the evidence folder onto the table and let it stay closed. You renovated behind the confessionals, I said. Why? He didn't answer right away. His eyes flicked to the door. Just once. Muscle memory. Like he'd done that walk before. Old buildings need upkeep, he said finally. I opened the folder. Photos first. The crawl space. The scratches. The shoes. Then the lab report. The DNA under the table belongs to 2 children, I said. One matches Lydia Moore. One matches Thomas Reed. His jaw tightened. Not shock. Not confusion. Containment. I leaned back. Industrial cleaner doesn't belong in a prayer room. But it belongs exactly where someone wants to erase a presence. That's when the priest stopped performing. He told me the church had secrets long before he arrived. That he inherited problems. That some doors were better left closed. That he was trying to protect something bigger than himself. That's always the excuse. God. Order. Purpose. I placed the fiber analysis on the table. Blue polyester. Matches the cloth storage bags found in your private office. Silence again. This time it crushed him. His shoulders sagged. The collars suddenly looked heavy. He didn't confess right away. He circled the truth like it might bite. Said children were drawn to the church because it felt safe. Said they trusted him. Said trust was powerful. I asked him where the children were now. He closed his eyes. That was enough. Search teams were already moving. Cadaver dogs alerted near the old baptismal drainage system behind the church. A place no one used anymore. A place sealed off decades ago. We broke through concrete that had been poured carefully. Deliberately. Inside were remains wrapped in cloth. Not carelessly. Reverently. Like offerings. Both children had been sedated. No signs of prolonged struggle. That detail haunted me more than violence would have. Someone had made them calm. Father Marcus was arrested that night. The congregation watched as he was led away in cuffs, disbelief cracking their faces. Some prayed louder. Some turned away. A few cried for him. None cried for the children until they saw the evidence. At trial, the defense argued mental illness. Religious delusion. Years of isolation. The jury didn't buy it. Forensics doesn't deal in faith. It deals in facts. The hidden room. The fibers. The DNA. The renovations. The cleaner. He was sentenced to life. St. Anselm's Church closed 6 months later. The bells never rang again. Parents still cross the street to avoid it. Some say they hear footsteps inside on Sundays. I don't believe that part. What I do believe is this. Monsters don't always hide in the dark. Sometimes they stand at the pulpit. And they rely on silence to survive. If you're watching this story and thinking, it could never happen where I worship, that's exactly what every parent in that church believed too. Trust is powerful. Evidence is stronger. This is Detective Tabby. And this file is closed.